Hey, it's Rich, the Louisiana Hobby Guy. Recently, I got a bunch of emails from people, quite a few actually, about 6 or 7, asking about Christmas trees. And yeah, I can do a Christmas tree, not a problem. In fact, I've got a couple of them. The one we're going to do today is a standalone tree that's got its own ornament cut out. And I've got a couple different ornaments that you can choose from. So let's just jump right into it. Let's jump into Lightburn and let's make that Christmas tree. We're going to use 2mm basswood today. And we're going to use the ortur 20 watt or 5.5 optical output laser. And we're going to cut this out and assemble it today. I'm going to show you just how easy it is to do. And I'm also going to leave a link for the free download down below in the show notes section of the video so that you can do this too. So let's jump into Lightburn and get started. All right, so here we are. Now this is the file that you'll get for free when you download it. This is the Christmas tree here, the standalone Christmas tree. This is the base up here. This is a little etching, says Merry Christmas and engraving. Everything in red is going to be cut out. Let me move this over a little bit. I'm going to hold down my mouse wheel and drag over to drag the bed around. And if I zoom in, I'm rolling my mouse wheel up. You'll see there's a little green line right here on this ornament, the star. That's just a reference point. It's going to engrave, but it's just a reference point so that you can paint the top green and the bottom red, or you can use some flocking in different colors or whatever. These little holes here are 3mm. These are the ornaments. You can choose from whichever one that you want. And here, you'll see that I've got this arranged sideways. And also you'll see that this box right here, this is my framing box. So I'm going to include this with the actual download so that you have it as well. And the best size wood that I've found here is 300 by 200mm basswood. So if you look up here in the top where it says width and height, I've set it to 298 by 198 to give me a little bit of extra room. And then when it's time to frame, I'll run I have the cuts and layers set over here. And if I right click on this, you'll see that flash. This one here is set at 1400 speed and 0.05 power, which is nothing. Okay, it's enough to turn on the laser so that you can see. I also have this set to 3 passes. So what'll happen is, with all of the outputs turned off, just this one output turned on for this line, I'll start the job on the laser and it'll start here and it'll start moving around, just barely lighting up the laser, and I'll know how to position the wood. I have a pretty good idea of where to put this because I've got my honeycomb bed and I know exactly where this is going to be from the grid. So I'm going to go set that up and we're going to get this ready to burn. Now this will be the first piece right here. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and grab this piece, the base. I'll set it on here, get rid of this one. I'll make 2 bases so that I can glue those together. So I know that it's 4mm thick, and you know that's probably about where you're going to want to be. And then I'll grab 1 or 2 of the ornaments over here and also put them inside here. So we'll be able to cut the tree first, then we'll cut the 2 bases that we'll glue together, and then we'll cut one of these ornaments. I'm not sure which one I'm going to do yet. Maybe I'll do 2 of them. So let me go ahead and get that set up and get it ready to burn, and I'll be right back. All right, so I've got the project set up now, and as you can see, I've turned off the output for everything but this line. If I right click on it, you'll see it flash down here. And this is my frame. This is my 300 by 200, which actually I made 298 by 198 just to be safe. And I've gone ahead and put my Christmas tree in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the laser and I'm going to frame it and make sure that it's lined up perfectly. And I think I've got it pretty well lined up, but let's take a look and see what happens. Actually, I'm not going to frame it. I'm just going to start the job because what I've done is I've set this up, like I told you, in line mode with 3 passes. So let's just go ahead and start the job, and it's at 0.05%, so it's perfect for framing. So I'm going to hit start, and let's take a look. All right, so that looks pretty perfect just the way it is. I don't have to do the 3 passes. If I did have to do it, all I would have to do is move the wood right now as it's going around in 3 different passes. I'm going to hit stop, and it's ready to cut right now. So let me come back over here to laser, cuts and layers, and let's turn off the output on that one. And let's turn on the output for the cut, which is going to be this one here. Ignore everything outside the bed because it's not going to do anything at all. So now we'll come, let's just take another look at this. So again, I've got 180 and 70 because I've done my power scale already. I've got it on 3 passes because I know that's going to give us a good cut through. And I'm going to turn off tabs and bridges. I don't know why that was on. That's a mistake. That was from a previous job. So now I'm just checking everything to make sure everything's right. And I'm glad that I did because I had tabs and bridges on. So we'll go ahead and send this to the laser and see what happens. Hopefully it's going to cut out perfectly. Let's hit start and see what happens. All right, so we've got the tree cut out. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the tree. I'm going to drag that off the workbed. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to drag the base down here. Now, with it selected, I'm going to press Control and the letter D, and that duplicates that. Now I'm going to use my right arrow key, and I'm just going to right arrow over to the right side here. Now I've got my 2 bases. All right, so with the 2 bases on the work plane, inside the frame, which is my piece of wood that I've just replaced with a clean piece, I'm going to grab one of the ornaments over here by selecting it. And if I drag from the bottom right to the left, or anywhere from the right to the left, it'll select the entire ornament. I'm going to drag this over. I'm going to stick it right about there. Looks good. And maybe I'll take this one, drag this one over to, I guess, about here. And I guess I'll do the third one. Why not? We can pick and choose what we want and just grab the last one, stick it over here somewhere. Being that we've got the wood, we can pick and choose which one we want. So now you can see that the Merry Christmas is grayed out. So we have to come back to cuts and layers. And that Merry Christmas one, if I right click here, you'll see that it flashes, is turned off. So we have to turn on the output. And now we need to set the priority. So this has to be engraved first. And you see it's way down the list here. So we're going to come over here to the right, to the up arrow, and we're going to click the up arrow until we get it to the top. This way, this will be the first thing that happens. Now, when you download the file, it's not going to remember these cut priorities. So you have to set this yourself. So make sure that your engraving is at the top. So that's going to be the first thing that happens, is the engraving. The second thing that's going to happen is the cut. So we're going to take our cut, going to move it up into position number 2. We're going to turn this one off because we know we've got it framed perfectly from earlier. And the only thing that we're going to output is these two, the very first two. First the engrave, then the cut. So first engrave, then cut. And forgetting about what's on the side here, it doesn't matter. Only what's on the workbed is going to actually cut. And then I can come over here to the laser tab and just hit start. Again, this is the ortur, the 20 watt or 5.5 optical output watt laser. And I'm using a honeycomb bed just because I have one. I used to use the spike bed. I still have that one. There I'm grabbing an extra pair of goggles for my grandson who just came in. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because, I don't know, I just don't like watching long speeded up videos, so I'll just kind of like skip through this. And you can see that the first thing that it's doing is the engraving. Oh, and by the way, if you do have a honeycomb bed, I made these honeycomb pins that are absolutely spectacular. They work really, really well. I've got them in my store, engraveandcutfiles.com, and they're free. So you can download the Lightburn template and cut some of these out for yourself if you have a honeycomb bed. So let me move this a little forward. Let's get past the engraving. And if you have a keen eye and you're paying attention here, you'll see that you don't have to have Merry Christmas on both of these, because one of them is just going to be a stacked base. So could go ahead and delete that side over there and save some time. And let's just press forward here. And we'll come up to the actual cutting. Now, something else that I did was I made these rectangles here a little too large. I did go ahead and fix that in the software. So on the template, if you're going to download this template, this will be fixed. It will be the right size. I had to go ahead and put a spacer in there just so I could make it fit. So let's skip forward a little more, and a little more, and a bit more, and we'll just keep going ahead and skipping. And something I had a really cool idea with this that I'll show you in just a couple of minutes that actually came out really great. It was supposed to be like a throwaway piece, but it's not. Now I do have my exhaust on over here, so you can see that all of the smoke comes back and gets sucked out. I don't smell anything in the shop. This is 1,000 CFMs. I do, on the other side of the shop, have a 4x10 grate with a fresh air inlet. So you have to remember, if you're using an exhaust that vents to the outside, that you also have to have an inlet in your shop as well to let fresh air in. So I am not using air assist on this laser, and I'm doing that intentionally because I'm going to paint it when I'm finished here. So I want the burn to be on there. It kind of mixes with the paint and gives it a nice streaky look instead of a solid color, and I kind of like that. So you don't always have to use air assist. Sometimes having the charring adds to the effect. All right, so this one is almost finished. This was part 1, and then there's a couple more pieces that have to get cut out in part 2. I'll go ahead and let this finish, and there we go. So now we'll jump over to part 2. This is the continuation, and we'll just skip forward on this one. One of the nice things about having this honeycomb bed is that when I swap out the wood, all I do is pull this pin here, I pull this pin here, and this pin here. And then I can slide the wood out. And when I do that, I hold down on the grate, and these other pins stay in place. So I don't have to frame it again. So I just slide the new piece in and put these 3 pins back, and it's perfectly ready for the next cut. So let me skip forward a little more here, and a little more. So we'll just jump all the way up over here. Now I could have, on the first cut, when I cut out the big piece, I could have actually put a couple of these on there, but I'm not too worried. This wood is fairly cheap. I'm not too worried about the cost of it. And we're almost to the end here. And that's it for the actual cutting itself. So now here comes the fun part. We're going to skip right into the painting and the decorating. And let's not skip any steps here. So one of the things that a lot of my subscribers say in the comments is that I don't skip steps. So I don't want to skip any steps here. So the very first step I did was I measured the thickness of the wood, which was anywhere from 2.05 to 2.13. So I just picked a number in between, and 2.10 kept coming up. I figured that was a pretty good number to use. So I'm going to say that this is 2.1 millimeters thick, this particular wood. And the second step that I did, now I'm using the LU1-4 laser, which is the original LaserMaster 2 diode laser. And it comes with this 29 and a half millimeter steel focus adjuster. So what I did was I took 2 millimeters. I can't say 2.1. Can't really get to 2.1 accurately, but this is about 2 millimeters right here. I lowered the focus down about 2 millimeters so that I could cut to the bottom of the wood. Now, if you're using like 4 millimeter wood, 2 millimeters is still good. So I'm cutting to the bottom, but usually you want to cut about halfway, you want to focus, about halfway through the wood. And this way you'll get a good clean burn, and you'll make sure that your laser can see all the way down to the bottom. And that's why I'm focused a little bit lower here, 2 millimeters lower. So here is the actual dry fit. Once I've gotten all the parts cut out, I did a quick dry fit. I found out that my rectangle here was too wide, so I had to take a small little piece of leftover, and I wedged it in the back. And the dry fit was just perfect. I wound up using some CA glue and some activator to make sure that it was held tightly in place. And here you can see this hole is a little bit too close to the top. It still works. It's not a problem. But in the template, if you're going to download it, I went ahead and I lowered this a little bit so that won't be a problem in the future. This is the star. This is the little triangular thing here. And here's where I got the cool idea. I really like this because this part here is a throwaway, right? No, it's not. I repurposed this instead of throwing it away. So the cutout piece from here, I went ahead and repurposed, and I'll show you that in a minute. Now, I did have a problem on this one. The most of it cut out pretty good, but you know, some of the XY where it's moving in both directions at the same time on the right side, and I think that's a belt adjustment, an error on my part because I don't have the belts adjusted perfectly on this. I did just do maintenance on this. I don't understand, but I'll have to tighten this right side belt, it looks like. But it wasn't a problem because I found a little trick. I took out my X-Acto knife and I placed it right here in the cut, right in there. And then I just rocked it down and it snapped all the way across right here. And then I stuck it in this cut piece right here where it did cut through. And I just slowly lowered it and it split all the way to the middle. Then I put it in here and lowered it again and it split all the way to the end. So this really only took, you know, less than a minute to go ahead and split all of this out without breaking any pieces. And here's where I got out my little paint set, and let me tell you folks, I'm no Bob Ross, that's for sure. And I'm not good at painting. I'm really bad at painting. But I went ahead and did this for you guys to see, so that you can make this on your own, give you some ideas anyway. So I went ahead and painted this up. And here's pretty much the final project. I went ahead and sprayed this with some industrial silver paint that I had. And then I just put some acrylic paint, some fast drying acrylic, onto a paper towel. And I dabbed out all these little dots with my trusty screwdriver here. And this is how it turned out. So I went ahead and got a piece of ground wire that my son had left over from doing the electrical for the new shop here, and I stripped it and I bent up a couple of these so that I can use them as hangers. You can probably just use Christmas hooks as well. And there's the first one. So this is the circular one. This is the one that I cut out that I'm going to show you this awesome idea that I had at the last minute. We'll get to it. Here's the triangular one. Here's the star. And there's my awesome idea. You see that? That little throwaway piece, let me just go up to the next picture. That little throwaway piece turned out to be a perfect little tree at the base. And you can see down here, I put a little bit of CA glue down here, a pretty big dot. And then I held it in place and sprayed it with activator. A couple seconds later, it's permanent. You can bend this back and forth. So that's the final project right there. What do you think about this? I think it came out awesome. I love this project. I think now this isn't something that you're going to want to sell, you know, on Etsy or on Facebook or anything like that. But I think this is a great gift for family and friends and things like that. I got the idea because my wife asked me to make 12 of these for her choir members. So that's the reason that I'm making these. But I really believe that this would be a great gift for family and friends. And, you know, I'm not a crafty person by nature. I mean, I love doing laser projects. I love doing slate coasters. You know, I love doing cutting boards. I love doing projects on the laser, on the CNC, the 3D printing, all that kind of stuff. But I'm just not a crafty person. I'm not good with paints, you know, painting. I'm not good with flocking, but there are all kinds of ideas that you can use to make this just totally awesome and personalize it. You can change the Merry Christmas to people's names or a date, you know, things like that. And I mean, I love this idea, and I'm going to love making these for the choir members, absolutely, for sure. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I've already had a lot of fun making this first one. Now I just got a bunch more to go and I'll be all finished. So what do you think? Do you like it? Do you think it'd be a great gift to give to your friends and family, you know, for the holidays? I think it's just a great gift, and I hope you do too. And I want to thank everybody out there for your support, for subscribing to the channel, all of my Patreons. You guys are awesome. You know, everybody out there, you all make this possible for me to do this and make these videos and enjoy my semi-retirement just to the max. I'm really loving this, and I hope you are too. And as always, I thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.